Then you get to the next group, and this is where you start to wonder, okay, would these guys be able to play this year for Carolina? It's really a group with Rice transfer Chad Lindberg, who I thought was going to come in here and really be a big part of what Carolina did. I mean, you talk positional versatility. He played 642 snaps last year. He played 377 at left guard, 245 at left tackle, 17 at right guard, and 2 at right tackle. So he played all over the place, graded out incredibly well in pass protection with a 77.8, which is amazing for a guy that's playing a lot of tackle. Allowed just 1 sack and 11 total pressures. But he was a guy that didn't really shine during the spring. And so I wonder if the area where he was really struggling was as a run blocker, where he was, only graded out with a 50.9 a year ago. I do wonder if that's one of the areas that he's struggling, but I would like to see him. I don't think he's going to challenge for one of the starting spots. I'd love to be wrong there and for him to be right there along with Osteen, pushing both Miles McVay and Trevion Green, but I just don't see that for him. But you want him to become a consistent enough guy where if Carolina ever has to lean on him in a certain situation where he needs to be out there as part of the 5, he is someone that you can trust. Same thing with Jakai Moore, a 6th-year guy out of South Carolina, another guy that's played literally every position along the offensive line except center. And his career is about as big of a roller coaster as you're going to see. I mean, at one point during his career, his run blocking grade was an 84.2. But this past year, or the last year that we saw him back in 2023, he got banged up last year, wasn't able to play. He graded out with a 52.5 run blocking grade. Pass protection, his best pass protection grade was back in 2022, where he had a 71.2. Pretty good. Really not that bad, right? 3 sacks, just 9 total quarterback pressures. This past year, 55, or 2023, 55.0, allowed 2 sacks and 18 quarterback pressures. 52.8 overall grade was the last time that we saw him out there. His best overall grade during his career was a 69 overall grade, which was back in that 2021 season. So he's been all over the place, and he's played pretty much everywhere. So if you wanted to play him at any of these different positions, you could. I want to see him along with Chad Lindberg become guys that Carolina can trust if they need in a pinch. I don't think these guys are going to be ones that are going to be pushing for starting roles. I think if you see a guy like Jakai Moore having to push for a starting role, that's probably more concerning than it is, that he's taken that big of a leap. So I certainly think these are guys that can be valuable for Carolina, but they only have a short period of time to show it here in fall camp.
Yeah, when it comes to Chad Lindberg, it's nothing personal against him. I just don't trust anything that comes out of Rice because personally, not a big fan of Rice. Big mashed potato guy. So I don't know how he is going to translate because nothing good happens when it involves Rice. With that being said,
we'd like those 45 seconds back.
I think if you can blow out some opponents early on and get these guys on the field to build some depth, build some trust, build some confidence, I think that's the best case scenario. If we get to a point where they're playing, significant, meaningful, hell, God forbid, starting, I think that's going to spell, the type of things we don't want to be talking about as an offense for the upcoming season. And so got to be very mindful of that. You'd love to build the depth in practice, in camp. I think that might be something that Belichick has to adjust to at the college game because it doesn't have the preseason. So it's a lot harder, I think, to develop depth, as opposed to where in the NFL where you play, now you play 4 preseason games. You have those scrimmages against other opponents. It's a lot easier to do that. But this is where Charlotte, Richmond, can you get that game over in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, get these guys on the field, get a chance to evaluate them, coach them up. That's kind of where I am for those two dudes. You'd like for one or two to emerge as someone that you feel a lot better about later on in the year than you feel about right now? Because 7's a start. I think you feel a lot better about this group holding up over the long haul if you can get to 8 offensive linemen that you trust no matter what situation they're thrown into. And so that's something that, I think was the downfall of Belichick's coaching staff, or not of Mac Brown's coaching staff, was their inability to ever develop quality, consistent depth among the offensive line. I think Bill Belichick is going to be intentional about this. So I would not be surprised if we get to the end of the year and we're talking about one of these two dudes, not in a much more positive way, but as them being more contributing factors than maybe we're thinking about as we sit here today.
Yeah, and I would think out of the two of them, it's probably Lindberg. I think he's still a guy that has a chance to grow, being a former Georgia offensive lineman. Whereas, Moore, we saw him in the SEC. We know that he was one of the guys that was out there for that game against Carolina back in the 2023 opener, where Carolina just kicked their ass all night on that offensive line.
Yep.
That's one of those things that, hopefully he can get out of his head when he comes to Carolina, and maybe he does become a part of that. But I'm banking more on Lindberg there.